Be pleased, O Lord our God, with your people Israel and with their prayer, and restore the service to your holy house, as you have in fact restored our services here to your sanctuary among us. Receive in love and prayer the peoples of Israel, and may the service of your people Israel be forever pleasing to you. And soon may we behold your return to Zion with mercy. Blessed are you, O Lord, who does in fact return your presence to Zion and in the communities thereof. He is the King, and now we acknowledge him as King on pages 34 to 39, utilizing the words of Shema to express our commitment to following him fully, because we say to him, in effect, you are King. You are the King over my life, and I want to follow you in that fashion. Pages 34 to 39.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Avoid. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol lavavcha ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. Blessed be he whose glorious kingdom is eternal. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your life, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as reminders on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates.
We turn now to pages 88 and 89 for Vayehi bin Soah, as we look forward to a time where what we have in fact affirmed will be affirmed worldwide, when from Zion will go forth the Torah and the word of the Lord out of Jerusalem.
ויהי בנשוא הארון ויאמר משה קום אדוני ויפוצו אויביך וינוסו משנאיך מפניך כי מציון תצא תורה כי מציון תצא תורה ודבר אדוני מירושלים ברוך שנתן תורה תורה ברוך שנתן תורה תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. And it came to pass, whenever the ark went forward, Moses would say, Arise, O Lord, and let your enemies be scattered. May those who hate you flee from before you. For from Zion shall go forth the Torah, and the word of the Lord out of Jerusalem. Blessed be he who in holiness gave the Torah to his people Israel. Baruch shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Mi shebarach avotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, veYaakov. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rabbi John. May he bless Kerry, who have come up to honor God and the Torah. May the Holy One bless them and their families, and send blessing and prosperity on all the work of their hands. Baruch Hu Adonai Hamavorach, Baruch Adonai Hamarach Leolam Avohed, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, Venatan Lanu Et Torato, Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah. Bless the Lord who is blessed. Bless the Lord who is blessed forever and ever. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who chose us from all peoples and gave us the Torah. Blessed are you, Lord, giver of the Torah.
And the Parsha begins, Vayigash elav Yehuda, Vayomer bi Adoni, Yedaverna avdeka, Devar ba'azne Adoni, Vi'al yichar afeka ba'avdeka, Ki kamoka kefaro. You may be seated. And so Judah approached him being Joseph, and he said, if it please my master, allow your servant to say a word in the ears of my master, and do not let your anger rage against your servant, because you are like Pharaoh. So the text begins, and it's a very interesting interaction between Joseph and Judah, setting the stage for what has become an ongoing understanding of the twofold Messiah, or as traditional Judaism understands it, the two Messiahs, son of Joseph and son of David. More on that later. Enough on that for right now.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who gave us the Torah of truth and life everlasting planted in our midst. Blessed are you, Lord, giver of the Torah.
He gave us the Torah centuries ago, several thousand years ago. And when our ancestors received these words directly from him at Mount Sinai, they stood before him and they said, in effect, what we're about to say now, these are the words that come directly from the Lord through the hand of our servant Moses. That is our response, pages 98 and 99, Vizodat Torah, as we stand as they stood before him. And if you need the transliteration, that's page 95.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. This is the Torah which Moses placed before the children of Israel. It is in accord with the Lord's command by the hand of Moses.
We remind ourselves, as we do on a weekly basis, that words that come from God are intended to impact lives and to grow deep, take deep roots in our lives so we can be transformed by these words. We acknowledge that reality as we respond with Etz Chaim Chi, pages 96 and 97. A tree of life, it truly is.
Es Chaim hi lama chazikim ba ve'tom cheha me'ushar deracheha darchei noam ve'chol netivoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha Ve'nashuva Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem Hashivenu Adonai Elecha Ve'nashuva Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. A tree of life it is to those who take hold of it, and happy are those who support it. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Turn us, Lord, to you, and let us return. Renew our days as of old.
With days renewed as of old, we're far better prepared to stand before him as his priests, which is what we do now, and we respond on pages 98 and 99 with Uvnucho Yomar.
Uvnucho Yomar, Shuva Adonai Rivavot Alfei Yisrael. When the ark rested, Moses would say, Return, O Lord, to the myriads of Israel's families. Arise, O Lord, to your resting place, you and your mighty ark. Clothe your priests with righteousness. May those who have experienced your faithful love shout for joy. For the sake of your servant David, don't delay the return of your Messiah. Ba'avur David avdecha, al teshev penei Mashiachecha. Ki lekach tov natatilechem, torati al ta'azovu. I give you good instruction. Do not forsake my Torah.
I remind you the instructions were to greet one another, not to enter into a lengthy conversation with said people. We'll get to that after the service, Jeff. Now, the title of this drash is Another Kind of Hanukkah. So, why is this night different? Yeah, I know, I took that from someplace else. All week long, I was wondering what I should speak about tonight, because I knew it was going to be a special night because we're finally back in the sanctuary after many, many months, and so it's a special night. And then it occurred to me, yesterday was Hanukkah. How appropriate. As the term Hanukkah itself means dedication, Hanukkah is a time when we commemorate the dedication of the restored temple. And tonight, we are rededicating our renewed sanctuary. And then a light bulb went off over my head. Just maybe the Parsha has something relevant for tonight. And then building on this moment of unique insight, I thought, perhaps I should also check out the Haftarah. Now there's an amazing idea. And in yet another instant of sheer genius, I decided to see what the Art Scroll Chumash might contribute. For those of you not familiar with Art Scroll, it's probably the most popular of the versions available nowadays. A Chumash, of course, is the explanations or the mini commentary on the portions for the week, both Torah and Haftarah. Well, here's how the introduction to the Parsha for tonight reads. I'm not going to read the whole of it, but I'm going to read a fair amount of it. It begins, at the conclusion of the previous Sidra, that's another term for the Parsha, Benjamin has been caught red-handed with the viceroy's goblet. He and his brothers stood at the mercy of the indignant, all-powerful Egyptian who ruled that Benjamin would have to remain in Egypt as a slave, while his brothers could return to their father. All the brothers were dumbfounded, but only Judah stepped forward, risking his life to intercede. Judah petitioned without debasing himself. He could not protest the fairness of the verdict because the goblet was in fact found in Benjamin's sack. Instead, Judah offered himself as a slave, not realizing that he was speaking to the very person whom he had once sold into slavery. The Midrash teaches that the other brothers shrank away. They sensed that this was a confrontation between two strong men. Ultimately, both triumphed for Joseph and Judah, and the ideas they represented remained integral parts of the Jewish people, and I might add, in part of our tradition and heritage. And so gets for us laid the foundation for the concept of the Messiah, the suffering Messiah being son of Joseph, Mashiach ben Yosef, and the sovereign Messiah being Mashiach ben David, son of David. These are concepts go way back in our tradition and in some of our people's understanding. Now, in Parshat Vayigash, the Parsha for tonight, Judah, in humility and in respect, approaches the one who has the power of life and death over all of the family. Now, notice Judah makes no challenge to Joseph's authority. Instead, what he does is he pleads with the person in charge, still unrevealed as his brother, to accept. He pleads with him, to accept his willing sacrifice as a replacement to ransom Benjamin. Striking, isn't it? Think about that. By the way, and there are many people who don't understand this, the term for atonement in Hebrew, kippur, means to ransom by means of a substitute. There you have it, right there. And in keeping the one who in fact was the greater son of Judah, in Yochanan's Gospel, John 15:13 says, there is no greater love than offering one's life or oneself for another. Well, our Parsha goes on in Genesis 45, verses 4 to 8. Joseph speaking, you needed me to tell you this, that Joseph was speaking. I'm Joseph, your brother, the one who sold you to Egypt. Pardon me, the one you sold to Egypt, he said. So now, do not be grieved, and don't be angry in your own eyes that you sold me here, since it was for preserving life that God sent me here. Who sent him there? He understood. God sent me here. Quick aside, I'm going to step out of the story. This is really Dr. Patrice's story. Not my story is that people get Jacob all screwed up. But that's not for tonight. They also do the same with Joseph. But notice what he says here. He understood that God sent me here, not you. And most people, because they didn't catch that, don't do the rest of this story justice and certainly do injustice to Joseph. Anyhow, back into our story. He says, God sent me ahead of you to ensure a remnant in the land and to keep you alive for a great escape. I love the translation here. For a great escape. So now, it wasn't you. You did not send me here, but God did. And in next week's Parsha, he says virtually the same thing. That which was intended to be a curse, God turned into a blessing. Or as the rabbi commented on it later, Romans 8:28, God causes all things to work together for the good of his people, to those who love him. I was struck by this because it wasn't that long ago that as we were here doing, or as Connie and Gary were here among others doing some of the work around here, I heard Connie say, or Connie said to me, something very similar to this, virtually quoting this text. What could be considered a curse, God turned into a blessing. I hope I've quoted you close enough. Thank you. All right. Now let's hop over to the Haftarah. Next, Ezekiel 37. It does not begin in verse 1. Verses 1 to 14. It's a striking passage that I'm not going to get into. It's the vision of the valley of dry bones. It's a very significant text. But our Haftarah doesn't begin there. It begins in verse 15. I'm going to read through most of the Haftarah. I'll pause to very briefly emphasize a few things. This is not a text that needs a whole lot of explanation. It begins, the word of the Lord came to me, to Ezekiel. Son of man, take a stick of wood and write on it, belonging to Judah and the Israelites associated with him. Then take another stick of wood and write on it, Ephraim's stick, belonging to Joseph. Why? Ephraim was Joseph's son. Quick aside. As is common in the books of the Torah, it wasn't the eldest who got to be heir. Same with Joseph's sons. Ephraim was not the firstborn. Anyhow, back to the story. Okay. Write on it Ephraim's stick, belonging to Joseph, and all the house of Israel associated with him. Join them together into one stick, so that they will become one in your hand. Two comments on this. Become one in your hand is the Hebrew term echad, which is the very same term that we use in the Shema. And most people get it wrong. Echad is not an absolute oneness. It is something in the sense of a composite unity because what? The two sticks become one. There's another term for one by way of absolute oneness, but it's not the term that's found here. The other thing is this. Notice that Joseph and Judah become one. And then it says, when your brothers and sisters ask you, won't you tell us what you mean by this? Say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I'm going to take the stick of Joseph, which is in Ephraim's hand, and of the Israelite tribes associated with him, and join it to Judah's stick, making them a single stick of wood, and here it comes again, they will become one in my hand. Hold before their eyes the sticks you have written on, and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I will take the Israelites out of the nations where they have gone. I will gather them from all around and bring them back into their own land. I will make them one nation in the land on the mountains of Israel. There will be one king over them, over all of them, and they will never again be two nations or be divided into two kingdoms. Two comments again. We've been fortunate enough, well, some of us who probably need canes to walk with have been fortunate enough to actually see this take place in our day and age. For the rest of you, it was just before your day and age. All right, part one. Notice again, the two become one. There will be one king over all of them, Joseph and Judah. And who is Judah's greatest son? David. Son of Joseph, son of David, become one. And then the very next verse says, and so my servant David will be their king. Quick thought. Servant. That seems to be the opposite of king. Notice how the two concepts are again fused together. And they will have, and I love this, one shepherd. We've just gone through Hanukkah, and there's a text that talks about the seed of David, the greatest son of David, becoming shepherd over his people. No wonder at Hanukkah time he said exactly that in John chapter 10. Anyhow, back to our text. They will follow my instructions, be careful to keep my guidelines. They will live in the land I gave to my servant Jacob. Jacob was his servant too. Anyhow, the land where your ancestors lived, they and their children and their children's children. A better translation would be they and their children and their grandchildren, children's children, whatever. It sounds somewhat literary this way. They will live there forever. And David, my servant, will be their prince forever. Notice again, servant, prince coming together. I will make a covenant of peace, brit shalom, with them. It will be an everlasting covenant. By the way, all of the covenants that God made with his people, I'm stepping out of the story again, are everlasting covenants, if you check out the text of Scripture. Whether it's with Abraham, through Moses, to David, or what's often called the new covenant, but it's really the renewed covenant. They are all everlasting. I will establish them and increase their numbers, which is exactly what has taken place in the land of Israel. And I love this, and here it goes for our tonight. I will put my sanctuary among them forever. My dwelling place will be with them. Love it. In a sense, we get to experience the flip side of that. I will be their God, and they will be my people. Then the nations will know that I, the Lord, make Israel holy, when my sanctuary is among them forever. How appropriate when we rededicate ours. For more light, did you catch that? More light. In case you've forgotten, look here, look there. There's part of the Second Temple literature called the Testaments of the 12 Patriarchs. I'm going to read just a line from one of the Testaments of the 12 Patriarchs, probably about a century or so before Yeshua this was written. This is a testament of Joseph. If I remember this correctly, it's in chapter 1, verses 9 and following, or maybe it's chapter 9, verses 1 and following, or maybe it's chapter 19. 9 and 1 stuck in my mind as I was reflecting on this. Here's what the text says before Yeshua was born. From Judah, okay, it's a testament of Joseph, talking to Judah, okay? From Judah, a virgin will give birth to a spotless lamb. Love it. You remember the spotless lamb? A non-Baptist named John spoke about that. Which raises the question, how can these things be? Well, the Haftarah from last week, the Hanukkah Haftarah, Zechariah 4:6 answers for us. How can these things be? Not by might, not by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord. And in that context, we now read the first chapter of Levi's Gospel, Matthew chapter 1, verse 20. Once again, there's a Joseph and there's a dream. Not the Joseph for tonight, but in a much later Joseph. And in that dream, he's told by an angel, take Mary or Miriam home to be your wife, for the child that is in her was conceived by the Holy Spirit. And then he quotes Isaiah 7, verse 14. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son. Wow. But there's more. Now, this is much later. This is a midrash from the 8th century, but it's based on much earlier teachings. It's called Tanhuma, and it reflects on the closing verse of last week's Haftarah. And I'm quoting, "It is written, 'Who are you, O great mountain?'" That's how 4:7 begins. And then the commentary on it is, "This is the King Messiah. And why is he called a great mountain?" Hear him out. "Because he is greater than the patriarchs, elevated above Abraham, exalted above Moses, and superior even to the ministering angels." End quote. Whoa. No wonder the wise men followed the light again, and came seeking him. And in much of the world of the church, that particular event takes place, I think it's on Monday, the 6th. But for us, now what? Well, back to where we began the service, so to speak. We can be wise also and experience his presence as we've gathered together here as a community in this particular sanctuary to, as the middle section of the order of service, the bulletin says, use the various sections as helps in worshiping God and as vehicles for experiencing his reality in our rededicated sanctuary. And use that as a motivation, not only to return on a regular basis, but to bring others with you. And if we were being recorded, live streamed, I would say something to those who were live streaming with us about showing up next week. But that being said, and in the meantime, take advantage of that special opportunity we have of experiencing the presence of God. Take a minute or so in quiet reflection and response to God. Basically, we have anticipated through much of our services the time of the return of the Messiah, when, as the Elena reminds us on pages 102 to 107, the world will be perfected under the rule of the Lord Almighty. It's the time when all false gods will be put to a shame, and he alone. And that's what the text literally says. He alone will be Lord over his universe. It's the time of the kingdom of David's greater son. We stand. We face Jerusalem again. We respond in pages 102 to 107.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשינו כגוי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו כקל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. אמת מלכנו הפסולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשב אותה אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. It is incumbent upon us to praise the Master of all, to exalt the Creator of the world, for he has made us distinct from the nations and unique among the families of the earth. Our destiny is not like theirs. Our calling is our task. We bow down and acknowledge before the King of Kings that there is none like him, for he stretched forth the heavens like a tent and established the earth. Truly there is none like our Lord and King. As the Torah says, you shall know this day and reflect in your heart that it is the Lord who is God in the heavens above and on the earth beneath. There is none else. We hope, O Lord our God, to soon behold your majestic glory, when all abominations shall be removed and all false gods shall be at an end. Then shall the world be perfected under the rule of the Lord Almighty, and all mankind shall call upon your name. For to you every knee must bow, and every tongue declare that you are God. Reign over us soon and forever. May the kingdom of David's greater Son be established forever. For then shall the words be fulfilled. The Lord shall be king forever, and the Lord shall be king over all the earth. On that day the Lord shall be one, and his name one. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shamo echad.
Please be seated. And now Patrice comes to remind us of what's in store for us as a community and upcoming events, so to speak, and whatever else.
Testing, tasting. No, here we are. No, it was on. Hi, good evening. Shabbat Shalom. Those of you who have not been with us prior, you missed a really good sermon, so try to get the beginning of it. I don't know how we can do that, but we'll figure something out. Well, welcome to 2025. Whether you were expecting it or not, it came. And I found that there's very little we can do about that. All right, so there are several things to alert you. I do want to begin with, we're very, very grateful for what people did and also what God did as far as us sitting in our sanctuary here. It's still a fixer-upper, but it looks so much better. It really, really does look much, much better. And we're going to keep tweaking it. And for some of those tweaks require money. So I would like to have you look either at the GoFundMe page for Congregation Ohr Chadash, or once again, swipe the Q something. Thank you, QR code. There's another Q problem that I was having earlier. And then, yes, so you never know. We never know who's going to give money. We just never know. The people we would think would give a lot of money sometimes don't give anything. And the people we never dreamed would give money this week. And it's still coming in, which is good, because the tweaking will require, more money. This week, one of the gentlemen who was in our wedding sent money. He's been a friend for a long time. Correct? Way before I knew John, he was buddies. So we never know, but we're very grateful for all the work and for the money. The blue box is in the back, right? That one over there. Oh, we have both boxes, so by the two exits are there. And we can renew our appeal about the artwork, which is somewhat scattered around here. Not every single piece of artwork, but some of the artwork. And there on the table in the foyer, you have more information and more pictures of some of these works of art that are done by Amram Ebgi. And John and I have always loved his artwork since we went to Israel and saw it. Maybe we saw it before even we went to Israel, but it was so easy to get in Israel compared to here in the States. But if you're interested in any of these pieces, please try to talk to somebody who knows something about them. Maybe not me. Okay, good plan. So we have Stump the Stars starting tomorrow night. Oh, it's been a long time. We better pony up something to talk about. That would be nice if you would ask questions at the top of your bulletin on the welcome side of the page. You still could send some questions, and we will look them up either later tonight and tomorrow, especially, something that's been bugging you, and you just can't put a finger on it or get the handle on it. Shabbat school returns next Friday night, the 10th. Anything? Oh, I'm sorry. Forgot about the seminary. Slicha. The seminary courses will not start for another couple of weeks, so you haven't missed anything. Yeah, it says at the bottom of this sheet, it says, fall semester begins January 22nd. Boy, fall semester is very late this year. Yeah, I think it means to say spring semester begins January 22nd, so it begins the week after Martin Luther King's birthday. And we have 4 major courses that we're offering this spring semester. My course, if you are up to Intermediate Hebrew 2, you're welcome to come. The Talmud and Messianic Judaism, Public Speaking Jewish Style, which is with our friend, Dr. Michael Schiffman, and the Epistles from a Jewish Perspective. That would be on this sheet, which tonight is printed on the back of Help Rebuild Ohr Chadash. You can slap that up on your refrigerator if you're still going to think about it for the next couple weeks. Have I mentioned? Okay, he has another thing.
Only to let them know that if they can sing on the first and last sessions of any class, pay later.
That is true. If you're not 100% sure that you want to or can attend regularly a class, you are more than welcome to sit in for free for a couple classes, and you will, I guess God will give you a vision then about what is good for you to do, and you're more than welcome to do that. Anything else? No. Well, before I ask Gary to come up, You know, I really like New Year. And it's not for the reason you think. It has nothing to do with alcohol. Shame for those of you who thought it was. A couple years ago, I found a really great poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, which was about the bells, the New Year's bells, and that was nice. And I have a very short one tonight, and I did not write this. I found it on the internet. It wasn't outprintable. It wasn't outprintable. I don't think that's a great verb, but we're going to go with that one. It wasn't print-outable. I don't like that one better. So I copied it down in my own fingers. And I love the sentiment of this. Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break, and all things can be mended. Not with time, as they say, but with intention. So go. Love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you. Happy New Year. Gary. Oh, goodbye. Slicha. So, for those of you who have been with us, even though we cannot see you, we can feel your presence. And we appreciate your attention to what we're doing. Have a great week. Start off your new year intentionally. Shabbat Shalom. And now, we are shut down by faith. Is that what we are?
A microphone. Very, very dangerous to hand me a microphone. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good to see you all here. And if you are new here, if this is your first time, we'd sort of like to know who you are